Honey, I blew up the business.
Welcome to the podcast. Mark Stringer, aka Strings. I've got to use his proper name, Strings. Nice to see you.
Hi, Dan. Lovely to see you, as ever.
Well, Strings and I have a bit of back history, actually. I've known him for years. As he's a man around town in London town, in the marketing, communications, PR, brand world. I sort of crossed paths with Strings a few times, and he's a bit of a legend in that world.
Bloody hell. A legend. It sounds, here we go, straight away. Oh, don't like a compliment, Dan. You know that. Don't like I'm going to reject a legend.
Right. He's notorious. Take that as you will. He's legendary for many different reasons. I won't go into them right now. I was going to let everybody know, this is a podcast called Honey, I Blew Up the Business. And what I like to do is raise our guests' profile before crashing them down to reality to sort of go over their darkest moments. The reason we're doing this, by the way, just in case you're new to the podcast, is that a few years ago, I managed to blow up my company called The Tech Department. And that's the company that's bringing you this podcast. And I managed to turn it around, but bloody hell, it was close. And I really had a school in entrepreneurship and life. And I learned a lot from that. And I really don't want to go there again. And so my mission in the podcast is to talk to legends like Strings and pick his brain so I can learn. And then hopefully you guys can learn. And specifically, you can learn how to avoid blowing up your business. But yeah, Strings is a serial entrepreneur. I'm going to embarrass him now even further. He's founder and chairman at a company called Pretty Green, which is a creative communications agency. And not any old one. He's worked with like everyone who's anyone. People like John Lewis and Red Bull, and I'm sure you can go on. He's also CEO of The Producers, which is Pretty Green's sister experience agency, aka Events. He's co-founder and director of Metropolitan Spirits, and he's made the world's most awarded Blanche absinthe. And I can see him. He's got a bottle on the go now.
I have got a bottle. It is an amazing tipple, but I can come to that if we have time and make everyone love absinthe like I do.
Well, I think that's a very important mission for this particular podcast. And he's also, on top of that, he's almost created a group of companies which are perhaps self-managing companies that are kind of working without him. And he's now co-founder and CMO at SKOOT, a navigation app which plants free trees as you drive. And I'll let you sort of explain what SKOOT is just quickly for us. Give us your elevator pitch.
It's the first and only carbon negative navigation and carpool app that helps companies and individuals avoid, reduce and offset carbon and really tackle this huge carbon time bomb issue that we're all faced with, and as the IPCC called, code red for humanity. And we're at the forefront of trying to make a difference, one drive at a time, I suppose.
So he's a man on a mission. And as you can tell, he's got like a whole bunch of stuff going on and a whole bunch of diverse interests. And there's a lot of stuff we're going to dig into there. I'd like to get into SKOOT, actually, because it's kind of interesting sort of shift for you. He's just been interviewed for a docuseries called Founders Changing the World because of his mission. But I'm going to point out that his career highlight was when my company rented some desks off him for a bit.
It definitely was, Dan. I mean, it's down. I think it's in my biog, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I bloody hope so. And I believe that was the pivot point in his fortunes. Those 2 or 3 desks we rented off you for a year. So if you're enjoying this podcast, by the way, and you like this podcast, please help me help other people. Subscribe, share it, comment, put it on social media. The more you do that, the more we get up the rankings on the podcast platforms, etc. And it really helps us share our message of goodness. So after bigging up Strings' legendary status, I'm going to bring him right back down to earth here, because foolishly he let slip to me. They had a challenging period at one point where he was trying to get the bus home, but was facing a sort of a bit of a problem about actually getting on the bus. So could you tell us about that time? What was going on then?
Can't we just talk about how good I am? It'd be a really rubbish podcast.
No, we can't.
How many people have cried on this podcast? 2008. I'd probably done what a number of people have done over the years, which is, you're ambitious, you're young, you feel like you're invincible. My career had been flying. probably too focused on my own career and self-actualization of me, probably for too many years. And, a great career that had been flying from being at Disney and, headhunted at 25 and 27, a company director, blah, 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 scaling a business. And, we get to Feb 14th, actually. Remember the date? It wasn't Valentine's, as it were. It was, got card flowers. But, life suddenly absolutely blew up. And maybe I blew it up. Maybe, I needed it to blow up, which we can, maybe I can lie down on the couch and talk about. But, my life massively changed. I was in a period of trying to amicably exit out of a business. I had exited. It wasn't particularly amicable at the time. We were trying to find a resolution. And I was faced with this sort of period of, I'm bloody brilliant, I'm invincible, I can do no wrong type vibe, although I'm sure lots of people would say different. But, I was out on my own in a way, trying to work out what I actually wanted to do with my life. And it was really, really challenging because I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. And I know there are people maybe listening from that period in my life who thought that I had a master plan as to where I was going. I didn't. I just knew I was pretty unhappy and I needed change. And it all blew up. And I'm there faced with this sort of crossroads of my life of I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I was having to throw an obscene amount of money at solicitors and barristers and people who wear wigs and things whilst trying to find this amicable sort of resolution. And I had to get a bus. And I remember going to the bank to get some money out and I couldn't get any money and there was no money. I've got a massive house, got 3 kids, got school fees. I've got all the trappings, I've had the nice watch, the sports car, blah, 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 blah. And I can't get any money out of the bank. And I am sat there thinking, shit, I'm not invincible. I don't know what to do. And it was a really rude, horrendous awakening of those people who you see on the corner of the streets with a sign that says homeless, those people who maybe become alcoholics because of stress and pressure, those people who you hear have lost your house because of something. I kind of went, the line between success and failure is so thin. And I remember walking home because I couldn't get any money out. And I've never told this story to anyone outside of probably Wendy, my wife. And having to go home and face up to the sort of shame that we've spoken about, or embarrassment or ego, that maybe you've royally got it wrong. That this invincibility ego thing that you can do no wrong is suddenly putting your family at jeopardy, is suddenly making you question whether or not you've made the right decision and whether or not the path that you think you're on and what you're trying to do is right. It is, and I think for me that the fear of getting it wrong and success and failure was the first time that I ever really thought it's not a chasm that you have to sort of cross to get on the other side of failure. It's actually narrow. It's so close. And, it was a sense of, am I right here? Have I made the right decisions? And actually, how do I get myself out of this and not become overwhelmed by this sense of failure? And what do you do to deal with it?
Yeah, that's the question. Because so you're stood. You see, you've got this glorious career. Everyone thinks you're amazing. You've got a CV that's like everyone wants. You've got a future that's looking rosy. But then suddenly you're stood at a cash point. So what went through your mind in that moment when the cash point didn't give you any money back, I mean, what almost take us back to that moment when you sort of stood there and it's beginning to just like actually break through your brain.
The bit that I never understood until it sort of happens, and it's sort of a running joke, isn't it? That people pretend to go to work and they go to the library and they don't have a job because they're too embarrassed to tell family, friends, partner. And there's something in that I now understand. I now understand how challenging it is to go home and say, by the way, we haven't got any money. Because, in our relationship, Wendy had stopped work. We just, we had our third. And, I sort of kind of blew it up, in a way. It was on me that it happened. And I think that's that sense of, oh my God, I don't know what to do. The bit for me that was, that got me through it, and I have really held on to this, is you can only get through it in partnership. It doesn't matter if it's you. It doesn't matter if you created the problem. It was all your fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it was, but owning it, that fault, owning your shit. I'm a Mel Robbins and Goggins type coach. Own it, get on with it. But for me, owning it meant admitting that I was a little bit behind an 8 ball, in some capacity, and talking to Wendy about it. And Wen said to me, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was really, really fortunate on one side, because what happened at that point from February onwards, there was a certain person who I'll always be grateful, and there were 3 probably at Red Bull at the time, Heidi Kohu, Nina Kaplan and Nigel Trude, were putting their arms around me beyond belief. Like, Strings, we want to work with you. What do you want? What can you, come and hang with us, come and do something. So on the one hand, I'm in this turmoil. On the other hand, I don't know what I want to do, but I've got people who are basically leaning in to me, and partly out of a sense that, they thought I could do good things with them, partly out of a sense of seeing someone that maybe needed an arm put around them. And, Wendy saying, we've got this, not you've got this, we've got this. And I think, the same with Nina and Heidi and, those guys, we've got this. I felt that we have got this. And I think for me, that was an amazing sort of safety net of thinking, you know what, we can get out of this. It's fine. I can see, how to get out of this. And I think that, I've posted it a few times, above every cloud, the sun's shining. Okay, it's not sometimes, it's a bit dark, but, there is a sense that climb high, get out of it. And I think with that, the support of those people around me, it kind of felt that anything was still possible. And I needed that, I suppose, reassurance, or, everyone needs a little bit of a flying in the V formation, the 25% uplift. Sometimes you just need to feel that someone's got you.
It's very interesting. Like, there's a definite kind of vision of an entrepreneur who's this sort of lone explorer sort of thing, out forging the path. But you're right, actually, it's the team around you and your family, your wife, partner, even children, people around you who can be supportive and compassionate and again, it's not a blame thing. It then becomes part of, okay, how can we, not just I or you, get through this? And it's interesting. You mentioned a few times about kind of how it felt and the sort of feelings around that. I mean, what was your kind of emotional state? So you've got this moment where I imagine the kind of like the close up in Jaws when on the beach when the camera zooms in, it's like there's no money, and then you're walking home on this kind of February, going, oh crap, like oh shit, and then you're being able to open yourself up. But what were your emotions going through at that point?
There were 2 kind of emotions, and I think we all go through it, maybe as founders, maybe as there's a sense that anything is possible. Like there is a sense that I can achieve anything. And I've been called delusional at times. I've been called visionary. I think it's like...
Well, you know, on that particular point, I have this thing, like, there's a really fine line. You sort of fine lines between visionary and delusionary, right? Because if it comes off, you're a visionary. If it doesn't, you're an absolute, like, loser, crazy person. Like, it's just like, I think there's this thin line here between the sort of inspiration and, like, he's an idiot.
Yeah. So for me, there was this sense, what if I get it wrong? What if I can't? What if I can't? But I've always had a self-belief, and it's back to that delusional, but there is a sense that do you back you? When it comes to it, do you back you? And even in your darkest hour, I feel very, very fortunate to be hardwired in a way that I have bad days, but they're days. They're very short moments where I really feel the pressure and the pain, and is this right? And it passes. I'm very, very lucky. I feel that. I don't think it's mental resilience that I've built. Yes, there is a part of that, and I do believe that in building that muscle memory of mental resilience. But I also feel incredibly blessed that I naturally move through things really quickly. So that sense of I'm at a junction, it can either go really well or go really badly. Very quickly, it was like, I'm driven to try and better myself to win. So there's something in me that goes from, I'm not a fight or flight. I'm not a flight person. I feel very lucky. I'm more, right, I've got this. I'm not going to lose. I'm on it. I've got it. I'm in it. And I feel very lucky to have that sort of mindset of just get on. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? Oh, yeah, lose my house, become an alcoholic, lose my family. Yeah. There is that sense if you're not careful. And for me, it was like, I've got this. I'm going to give it a go. And what happened very quickly in that particular moment around 2008, as I'm beginning to think about where I want to go, and I'm beginning to get a shape for the next iteration, is I had an agreement with Wens, and the agreement was 2 years. The agreement was, you do whatever you want for 2 years, I back it. If it doesn't work, you will go and get a job, a proper job. And that was the agreement. So for me, it took the pressure off about, I need to do it today. I knew that I had some space. And then it became really, really exciting. The sort of uncharted territory, don't know where I'm going to go, but I feel like I've got a safety net. I've got a safe harbor, and, just kicked on in a way that I wanted to do with the people around me who I wanted to work with in the way that I wanted to work. And that was that emotional, could have gone and got a job. And the reason that I remember very, very clearly what happened as to why I didn't get a job was because I went to see a headhunter, and the headhunter said, there's this amazing job at WPP working with this particular brand on a global thing, blah, 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 blah. And I remember thinking, I could think of nothing worse. So sorry, if in a few years' time I do end up at WPP, I do apologise for this. But,
he takes it all back. He takes it all back.
Yeah. Martin, if you're listening, I quite like that thought. No, I don't at all. But what happened was I was sat there and I said, the problem is I just don't think I want a boss. I don't think I can have a boss. And they went, yeah, I don't think we can help you. And that's when all those doors just basically closed. And it dawned on me that when you're having a really tough time, it's sometimes easier to say what you don't want than what you do want. What do you want to be when you grow up? Taller, an astronaut, play rugby for England, and a Marine. I still have the same kind of ambitions. But if you tell me what don't you want, I'm much clearer on articulating what I don't want in my life. And that's what happened. I didn't want a boss. Well, you better start your own business then.
That's a kind of really actually quite profound insight, actually, because funnily enough, I was talking to my daughter. She's 17 and she's looking at what she's going to do when she leaves the sixth form. And she was going, I don't know what to do. And then we were chatting literally last night about, okay, well, what do you not want to do? And it's quite an interesting way of framing making decisions, because oftentimes it's a bit confusing. But if you start taking things off the table that you definitely don't want, like you didn't want a boss, and actually, funnily enough, I can really relate to that. Is I don't want a boss. So when I was going through my crash, and there was a moment in the September of 2017 where it was literally like we were writing a big check each to cash flow the business, and it was absolutely no guarantee of that. It could have just been eaten up in the following week, and then that was the end of it. So we had to kind of go, well, it's either going to go, or it's kind of, we're going to bet ourselves, to your point about self-belief. And the point was, in that moment, I was like, I can't do anything else. I just can't go and get a job. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to have to back myself, however thin and narrow the path is, because I don't want to do that. And again, that helped me stay to this narrow path, like you say, between success and failure. That was like 100% in that, all that chaos at that time and the emotional kind of fear and turmoil. It was like, I've got to just back myself. I've got to back myself positively and play the hope and believe in it.
Yeah, and I think what I was very fortunate in having a partner who had come from the industry, who we met working together, who knew what I really was good at and what I was terrible at. And, she basically stepped in and said, I will pick up the things that you're not very good at. We didn't have an accountant. We didn't, I don't know how you, at that time, knowing how you bill people, get paid, have an office operationally. Literally, she stepped in and said, I've got that for you. And then surrounding myself with brilliant people who wanted, okay, you could say, working with Red Bull, which was the first sort of project that we were involved in quite heavily. And, Red Bull, you can get anyone. But it's not about that. It's not about going out there to the market. I don't think in those early days, it's about working with people you trust and respect, and surrounding yourself with people who love doing the things that maybe you're not very good at or don't want to do, and becoming a team and complementing each other. And, Emma Grace, who I'd worked with previously, and was just finished at Freud's. And, I said to Em, there's this project, do you want to come and help? And straight away, she just picked it up, ran with it. And there's just a comfort in, oh my God, this is amazing. This is fun. And we went on this sort of crazy journey with me and Emma, and like 13 years on, she's now, co-CEO with Jess and still smashing it. And I think, for me, the friendship and the love and the sort of journey and the stories that we've all got to tell around those things that are good and bad, it's about the people you surround yourself with. And I know it's a cliche. You often say you don't need the best people. I'm lucky. Emma, Jess, the board at Pretty Green are pretty exceptional, but they're exceptional because they make themselves exceptional together. And I think that's the difference between brilliant individuals and brilliant teams, is how do you make each other exceptional? And I feel incredibly grateful. I joke, I've had a career where I get paid for messing about. Literally is how I feel. I realized early on that work should never feel like work. This is work. I mean, what a laugh. Standing on the, Tower Bridge, watching Robbie Madison do a backflip and being paid, taking a private jet to Mayweather versus Conor McGregor with a load of people and being paid to do that on Conor McGregor's private jet. You sort of go, how do you get paid for doing that? And that slightly belittles the amount of stress and grief that goes into it. But I think you have to have that sort of sense of fun, enjoyment, finding fun in things that most people don't. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, it's only the world, or creative agency world, is this sort of mix of play and terror often, in terms of kind of actually getting the thing out the door, but then it's really kind of fun, a fun thing to be doing. I mean, what's great about your story, and I will attest that Strings' team are excellent, having worked with them on a number of things and over a number of times. They're a really great team. So this sort of thing played out, and it's gone really well. You've had a great career. But I mean, it's always reflecting or looking back on that 2008 moment and the sort of little big bang sort of thing that happened then. What do you think you learnt from that moment?
Don't, back to that, own your shit, as it were. But there is only one person who can solve it, and it's you mentally, in knowing where to go and seek help, in knowing that you need help, because it's not going to go away when you wake up the next morning. The problem is still there. So either deal with it or let it just consume you and slow you down. And it becomes this, the monkey on your back or baggage. And, the difference between success and failure is tenacity and grit. We know that. You look at all the studies. And the ability to pick yourself up and go. And I always joke that I will die in the outback because I'm not going to sit in my car and wait to be saved. I'm not, and that's what you're meant to do. But I think in business, you have to get on the front foot. You have to get out. And I, used to be above my office. You can only control what you can control. And if that means that you just get out there and you shake some trees and you try and do something, it may be the wrong thing, but mentally you feel great. You feel great coming home, realizing that you've done something rather than someone waiting for someone. It's like, oh, I'm waiting for the, to find out if we won this, or I'm waiting to know if we get the contract. I'm waiting to see whether the house gets through. I'm like, get on the phone. Let's just phone them. Are we going to complete today or not? Now, it may not make any difference, but I feel a lot better knowing that I tried to make a difference to my life, to the problem that I'm faced. And I think that through, and don't get me wrong, 13 years of Pretty Green, I think it is now, lost 70% of our clients in a month, 1 year. Things happen along that journey, but the same things ring true. Don't wait. Don't sit back. No one's going to make it go away. Only you can. And, take the team with you.
Actually, on that particular point of taking the team with you, the other thing that springs to mind as you're chatting about 2008 is you said there was some key individuals at that moment who stuck by you, stuck with you, who believed in you, including your people who then joined the team. So there's probably a period of time where the nascent team and the emergent team, be it client or team members, what attributes do you feel you had that made them think this guy is worth betting on? Like, I mean, I obviously appreciate your wife's in it, but people around your clients, team members. What about you do you think they believed in? You had self-belief, but what do you think they saw in you?
Well, I've never thought about it. I think maybe at that period in time that, you have to have belief. You have to have, we didn't have a business plan. We didn't have a mission statement. I had a value set actually about the type of business I wanted, about the mantras, about if you're not excited, who is? Manners cost nothing. There were a load of those type of things of the type of business. We had a thing at the time called the Christmas lunch test where, you wanted to sit back next to that person at Christmas lunch. For me, Pretty Green was a home away from home. I wanted to love going into the office. I think, alongside wanting to work with clients who really wanted to work with the agency, and as it was there, it wasn't really an agency, but Kerry from Nando's picking up the phone and going, you kind of do kind of celebrity influencer stuff. We've got this idea for a black card and we just want to know if you want to get involved. And I think there's just this sense of, yeah, let's have a chat. We can do anything. I think it was more that mindset that anything is possible. We're going to have a laugh along the way and let's just see what happens. And I think maybe that was what they were buying into. Or I don't know. Maybe ask Gracie and Jess. They'll go, yeah, none of that. None of that.
Yeah, free coffee.
Yeah, he promised us some bagels and Red Bull. But I think, Dan, on that point about, the people that, who sit with you and come with you, when things go wrong, and it could be a relationship that blows up and a divorce, or, you live with your partner and it goes wrong. It could be a business. It could be anything. I think there are three types of people, and we spend too much time on one particular group, and that's the group that you feel has gone against you. So if you think you've got the moral high ground, or you think you're right, or you think, it could be mutual friends, or whatever it is, there's a group who do not come with you, who reject you for whatever reason. They don't buy into you. They think you're wrong. They think you're an arse. Whatever the thing is, there's that group. There's a group in the middle who just keep their head down. They go neutral. You sort of think, they don't really do anything. And there's a smaller group who put their hand up, who put their arm around you, who reach out. And maybe it's because we're humans who focus on the negative. We really obsess about that group, that negative group, the group that you feel rejected you. And I've learned, actually, forget that. And I very quickly did that when things were, going slightly wrong, was this is amazing. I now get to do whatever I want to do with the people I want to do it with. I get to go on this new journey with these new people who really are with me. And I sort of learned to focus on that smaller group, maybe, who I felt had my back. And those other people, they're not going to be my friends, maybe. They're not going to, pick up the phone. But it's just the way it is.
Yeah, you can't please all the people all the time, as it were. You got to focus on the people that are with you. And on the subject, so this is, again, thank you for sharing so openly, Strings. It's a really, really compelling story. I'm going to switch gears a little moment here. But on the subject of purpose, you talked about purpose, your early purpose, and maybe just going out and having a good time and sort of with self-belief quite broadly. But you've switched now to a business that has purpose, I guess, baked into the core of its proposition, SKOOT, which we touched on earlier. But could you just talk about the kind of this idea of balancing purpose and success, as I know you've spoken about?
I think for me, the purpose really became much more meaningful when I was at the birth of my daughter, who's now 16. And I realized I got it. I got the point of why I was here, which was a baby. Like, that was purpose. I wish I was religious. I wish I had this sense of what happens at the end. And I'm probably more, into the Force and Yoda and the spirituality than I am into religion. And that for me was that first point in my life where I understood purpose. I understood this thing that was so much more important than the material trappings of when I get promotion, when I get this sports car, when I get this nice watch, da, 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 da. And then it kind of dawned on me that was the purpose. The purpose was my family. The purpose was having a good relationship with my kids and growing up and coming home and reading to them. And the agency at the same point was this idea, I said it years ago, God, I love the fact that we are a kind agency when no one's talking about kindness. And all the people that worked with Pretty Green and that, for me, so much love and passion for the people and the kindness that they've shown each other. So that purpose was beginning to really bite for me. Forget the awards and the trappings and the money, important, but actually the purpose felt like people. And then Greg reached out to me, Greg Gormley, founder of Bink, built the business up to 100 million, raised 40 million, blah, blah, blah. I say blah, 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 as I'm dismissing it. Incredible success. And I'd worked with Greg at Bink, and I actually resigned the account because I didn't think we were going to give it the passion that he wanted. But we got on and we were sort of really good acquaintances. And Greg phoned me and said, hey, check out 24 Hours in A&E. I'm on it. I nearly died. And I check it out, and he literally nearly died. If you're squeamish.
But hang on, so he was on a TV show, 24 Hours in A&E, really?
And watch it, the clip where they put the finger in his kneecap and the finger disappears, and he's on ketamine and everything, and you go, oh! Anyway, Greg had an epiphany moment where it was like he wasn't going to go back to Bink, it had moved on, and Millie, his daughter, didn't come home one night, and he was up all night worrying about her, and eventually he realized that she was giving lifts to friends using WhatsApp and Snap. And his sort of epiphany moment was, there's not an app for this, and there should be. It's dangerous, invalidating your insurance. It just feels wrong. social mobility is a problem for young people, car decline, et cetera, et cetera. So he messaged me and he said, can we have a chat? And we went for dinner. And there was just something in it that really piqued my interest. And we talked about this idea, if you're in mobility, then you should be sustainable. And the mission at the time, and Greg had said, look, Strings, why don't you become a NED? Do you want to get involved? And we got talking more and more and more. He said, Strings, do you want to go all in? Like, do you want to be a co-founder? I was like, oh, I don't know what this means. And I was at a juncture, long time in the agency, and I reached out to the board and we had a conversation. And I said, I feel like it's good for me. It's good for you. Let's see where this goes. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And that sense of you have to have that belief again. We can try and change something which hasn't changed for a long time. And actually we can offer something which is really good for the environment. And that's the journey we went on. And during, trying to launch a social mobility app in a pandemic of social distancing is not that easy. Yeah. But during that period, what became more and more apparent to us is the social mobility issue is a real problem. And actually carpooling and lift sharing, really there is something in it. But actually what the bigger problem is the carbon time bomb. And that isn't just appropriate to young people. That's every single person who drives. And there are, look at the numbers. We will drive roughly about 600 times a year, and we will use a taxi about 20 times a year. There are 600 occasions where you should be offsetting your car journey of, let's call it 600 billion miles that we drive in the UK alone. And no one's dealing with it. No one's dealing with that problem. No one is telling you that the stuff coming out the back of your car is one of the major contributing factors to the climate crisis, because it's colorless. If you were chucking it over your neighbor's wall, there would be riots. But because we can't see it, because we can't see the equivalent of 14,000 Millennium Domes bubbled up across the UK, we're not doing anything about it. And SKOOT, we've realized that we have got a tech solution that we built out now that enables you just to go into the app, press start, press stop, and it will offset your car journey there and then, and we will plant a tree. And then we will nudge you to carpool. So our big focus is around businesses, is around the Scope 3 carbon, and actually trying to make a difference. Just trying to do something, because to do nothing is going to lead to a horrendous situation. And we can't rely on governments and we can't rely on other people. We have to rely on ourselves. And, we just feel very passionate now about something that is easily solvable. If you think about it, it's really easy to do one less journey a week, to carpool once a month, to plant a tree every time you get in the car by a tech solution. 38 million registered cars in the UK. If you went on SKOOT today, and if every one of them press start, press stop, we'd plant 38 million trees. That's it. It's that easy. And we're at a point where we all need to do something, because our children and, the barrier reef, look at it in so many different ways, they're not going to be here. And I hope that COVID has meant us all realize that the fragility of what we think is invincible is incredibly worrying.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because in a way that the lockdown pandemic period has been a little bit of a kind of societal, global sort of blow up moment. You had your moment in 2008. We've all had our moments in our careers and lives where things you have to sort of stop and go, time out. And you would hope so. And you'd hope that there's a bit of a kind of orientation of what's actually important. And I think a lot of people on this podcast have said actually this, that they're really the last 6 months, they've kind of gone, really, what am I doing and why? And I have. We've kind of really shifted the focus of our business through, the last 6 months, 9 months. And this podcast has come out of that reflection. and I think there's a sense of people wanting to do their bit to help others, and that can be articulated in a number of ways. But so I think what you're doing is amazing, and in a way you're applying these skills that you've learned onto this big gnarly problem. What's kind of cute is how you've sliced it into something that's very direct in terms of you can go and do something about it. What I'm interested in is you've gone out of this group of companies or the things you've been doing over the last period of time into this new thing with a partner, and it's a very ambitious, purpose-led thing that's driving you, but it's a different kind of animal. It's a tech thing, and you're doing crowdfunding at the moment, which I believe is going well, but it's a different kind of animal for you. It's not the same kind of deal as an agency. It's not the same kind of thing as maybe a bootstrap thing that you're self-financing. How have you found that transition?
It is fraught with issues, but don't get me wrong. You're upskilling, you're learning new things, but you either love that or you don't. So if you have a thirst for new, which a lot of founders have, a lot of us do this because we love new. For me, I love brand building. I love the creation of brands. So when you've got an idea, and Greg came up with a name for SKOOT. He had a little logo that he'd sort of drawn, and that's it. You kind of don't really know where it's going to go. And that is amazing. If you're not excited at that point, if you're not going, this is brilliant, we're going to build a thing that's got, it's going to have a horse with a horn on, we're going to change the world. If you don't think that, you're not going to do it. And it's not, in my mind, it's not about the money that you could create. And I know you talk about VC and valuations and those things, but it's about this idea that you've created something there was nothing there. There was nothing there. So go to the App Store now, download SKOOT, look at the reviews, an App Store, 100,000 trees we planted. There's an app that is a real app. It's a thing that Alex, CTO, Dan, a team of 20 people have built, but you can never take it away. It's always going to have been built. And that is an amazing feeling. Walking into a bar and seeing your absinthe, seeing your agency name, there is an ego that we all have. I joke about it. When I was at Disney, and I was like 20 or something, and I was drunk and I was driving home, and I'd see a sign, and it was an Aladdin sort of 48 sheet. And I did that. I still have that same exact feeling. I just don't say it. I say it in my head. And I said to the kids the other day, hey, look, we're 20 in the App Store charts. And they went, in all apps, or just navigation? I'm like, bloody hard audiences. We're live in 117 countries. Yeah, but there's about 300, aren't there? So, there is a slight bringing you down to the reality. But it's so exciting. But it's challenging. Don't get me wrong. We have a call, and we have had a call for last 2 years at 8:00, and now it's 8:30 every day. And actually, only the last 6 months we've stopped doing Saturday and Sunday. Every day there is a stand-up call with me, Greg, and Alex at 8:00, 8:30. We get on the call, we do it. There is a relentlessness in it, and probably that's what drives me, is the new, the exciting, the relentless. Tech. Oh my God. It's so difficult to build things, but it's so rewarding, so exciting.
Yeah, it's funny. I can resonate with a lot of that. I still get a kick out of seeing our stuff, every time, and have done all the way through. And reference tech, it's funny. I think this is a thing that a lot of companies are now having to face up to. Even, you have an app, there's a tech platform, but companies that are not tech platforms are kind of having to confront this now, isn't it? Having a website with a bit of a shop on it is really only the very, very tippy top of an iceberg. And I think a lot of the changes through lockdown about remote working, about cloud stuff, about e-commerce, everyone's got to face up to this, and it is really hard. I mean, again, this is what I do for a living, but it's interesting. It is once you built that stuff, it's so rewarding. You've actually made something, and it's working, and it's functional. That is a kick. That.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time that we, pressed something to Apple, to be reviewed, and it's like, and then you press it to release. And, we pushed the release live on Saturday night. I saw Apple had approved the release, and I'm actually walking through Charing Cross Station, and I can see App Store Connect has just approved it. And I'm messaging Greg and Alex going, any reason if I push this live now, is there a conflict issue with Android? No, bang. It's like, yay! There is just something, incredibly rewarding in those micro moments of joy that you have to find. The journey, I learned that maybe the biggest thing of Pretty Green. What I realized was previously I was on this getting to the destination, and I've tried desperately to keep pulling back to the idea of it's the journey. It's the journey. Am I enjoying the journey? Is it still fun? How do I make it fun? And don't get me wrong, it's incredibly stressful. And there are days where you do go, oh, geez. But what's the alternative?
Well, that's it, yeah. And I think it's a nice place. We're sort of edging up towards our time together, but that's a beautiful place to get to. Because I think, we sort of talk about things blowing up and what have you, but the thing, what's the joy? And use the word joy. It's something I've got tuned into recently, because it is and can be joyful, walking that path, pulling these things off, getting it away, building the thing. It's a joy. And to be able to be aware of that in the moment as it's happening, that's the chef's kiss moment. I mean, for me anyway, and I think that's what you'd be saying. And I think that's something that's really good to coach yourself to be in that moment and to recognize and be with those experiences, because that is the substance of it.
Yeah, and I think, once again, surrounding yourself, we've got an amazing board at SKOOT, really heavy hitting sort of board and advisors from ex-Google, ex-Facebook, Addison Lee, et cetera, proper, I suppose from the get-go, because of Greg's background, you go adult, as it were, you bootstrap in a different way, raise 3.5 million to date. That's not really bootstrapping a startup, but, going quickly because experience says you can get there quicker. But like Pretty Green, surround yourself with brilliant people, try and give yourselves accountability in the things that you're good at, but try and enjoy the moment. And that's the bit that sometimes is incredibly difficult to remember. You chose to do it. And that's, for me, something that I really hold true. It's my choice. I chose to do this. You will never hear me complain and moan and whinge about my life, no matter how bad it could be at different moments. And I don't want people thinking that listening to this, that my life is perfect and that, we've all got our own baggage and we've all got lots of things that, people don't see and we don't always talk about. But it's my choice. And I chose this path and I made these decisions, and I might not like some of the choices I'm faced with, but I have choice. And this is my choice. And, I'm not self-inflicted. I chose to have different businesses. I chose to join Greg at SKOOT. I chose to move away from being operational on Pretty Green, et cetera, et cetera. I chose to build a house and nearly run out of money. They were my choices, no one else's. And, back to, I'm going to own that. And that for me means that I don't moan. I don't, complain about how hard I have to work. I don't work so hard. Just, that's it. Don't go into work then. Stay at home. Don't moan about how hard you work. Don't. Change. Sell your house. Move abroad. Live in a tent. That's, I suppose, my mindset. We've all got choice. It's just difficult.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful place to finish. I think it's owning it and all the implications around it. And it's your choice. Yeah, and you can choose to wear that heavily or you can choose to wear it lightly and see those micro moments of joy. I think it's a beautiful little line. I'm going to steal that and stick it on a postcard and put it next to my desk. To observe and stay in touch with my micro moments of joy. Strings, thanks so much. You've been a fantastic open guest. And if people want to connect with you, which I recommend they do because you post great stuff particularly on LinkedIn, where would they find you?
Find me on LinkedIn. I can't remember. I think it's Strings. Strings London on most other handles, but LinkedIn is now my place of rambling and joy and not being. Look at me. I'm great. I try and just call it as it is. And, so find me there, reach out, or help at Scoot Ride. If any HR sustainability people want to talk about how we save the planet, drop me a line.
Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes. But yeah, Strings at LinkedIn and Strings London on Twitter, Instagram. But yeah, check out Scoot. So Scoot Ride. Is that scootride.com?
Yeah. So if you go to App Store or Android and sort of check out Scoot Carbon Negative, navigation, you'll find us, or carbon offset, or scootride.com is the URL.
So get on it. Help Strings on his big mission. I'm going to actually download this because you're right. I'm like using trips. I don't even think about it. It's just part of you just got to go to the shops or whatever. So this is a really important thing we should all get behind, everyone. Get that downloaded, use it.
We've got 900,000 trees that we're going to give away for free left. We've done 100,000 already at our designated site in Kenya, in Tudor Creek. So 900,000 trees, go and plant them now.
Well, you've heard it. Get on it. Thanks ever so much for being here, everyone. Thanks for sharing, Strings, and I'll hopefully see you soon. Stay on the line as we press off. But I'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Do you want to get the top 5 tidbits from each episode emailed to your inbox every Friday? Yes, you do. It saves you having to go through and make notes and make a note of all the books and all the ideas that are in the podcast. We go through and we choose the top 5 we like, plus put all the links into that email. So if you just go up to honeyblueupthebusiness.com, yes, that's honeyblueupthebusiness.com, and just enter your email address. There's a little box, just enter it in, and we will send you that information. And it saves you having to make notes and all that. That's make your life a bit easier. And of course, if you did enjoy the episode, please consider subscribing. We are trying to help people through this. So the more people that subscribe, review, rate on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, the more people will see it and the more we can help. So help us, help other people, other entrepreneurs like you. And before I go, I've got to say big up to my company, the tech department, the company we blew up and put back together again. They're generously supporting me on this mission through the podcast. So if you guys want to have a look at a company that can really help you improve your technology, make it better so your business gets better too, boosting your sales and your profit and a bit more sanity in your life, a little less stress, then head up to thetechdept.com, the tech department. My company, give us a look. On behalf of all of us here, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.